You're listening to Football for Girls. I'm Bailey.
I'm Grace.
And I'm Ashley.
Today we are joined by a very special guest. We're talking with Hayley Lewis. Hayley is a part of the KSHB 41 sports team. She's been covering the Chiefs for the last couple years, and we're excited to have her on and hear about her journey. Welcome, Hayley.
Thanks so much. Right after you said Bailey, I wanted to be like, and I'm Hayley, and just keep the rhymes going. But yeah, thanks for having me on.
Right? We're excited to hear about your story. Obviously, it was an exciting year to be a Chiefs fan. Exciting few years to be a Chiefs fan, really. But yeah, I know that you do a lot more than that, and kind of having it's been incredible.
What is your earliest football memory?
Oh, being raised in a football family, it kind of goes back early. So if you've ever Remember the Titans, and I know it's such a cliche movie and people always utilize it if they're in anything involved in sports, but my life was literally growing up on the sidelines. We moved around for my dad's career in football, and I remember every single Friday night we were at the field, wherever, if it was a small town or a big town. And so my first memories were really just running around on the sideline and being in the stands. And what we would do as kids was we would hide up underneath the bleachers while all the things were going on. And I remember one of the time the quarterback got hit so hard that he slid up all the way under the bleachers. And I was sitting back there and he was like, "Hey, Hayley," and then grabs the ball and walks back out. And I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. So I think my first memories are really, just kind of feeling like I was growing up on the sidelines with my dad and being a part of the football team as a little kid.
That's really cool. Your dad coaching all the time. What was that experience for you growing up, and how did that affect you?
Well, I can tell you I never got a date until college, so that was fun. The boys would not look at me. They knew in high school if they did that they would be running laps. And anytime, I remember one time I was brave enough to try to hold this guy's hand in the hallway in high school. And I was at the same high school that my dad was the head coach at. And I come around the corner and all of a sudden I see him and one of his other coaching buddies. I immediately dropped the guy's hand. I was like, I'm never going to get a boyfriend. This is never going to happen. Poor boy was running laps that day after football practice. And I was like, great. Thanks, Dad. You're killing my dating life. So
probably never going to try that again. Been there, done that. We'll wait till I'm gone.
But you know what? It was really fun because I got to learn the ins and outs of the industry, not only from the aspect of a coach's daughter, but from seeing what a coach goes through, seeing someone's life and salary depending on 18-year-olds, and then also watching my younger brother go on and play Division I football, watching what he went through in that aspect. So I think when I'm on the sideline or when I'm doing reporting, I can really utilize that background because I've seen it from such a different perspective, because it was really the well-being of my family's salary growing up, which is kind of cool to say.
Well, and it's when you grow up around the sport, it's such a becomes such a culture and such a part of your family culture and the rhythm of your life.
Right.
I know we've always joked that Grace is that girl from Remember the Titans, the daughter on the sidelines.
Though.
Yeah, my dad coached. He never coached high school. He stopped at 8th grade, but throughout our whole life, he was coaching.
Yeah.
Just 1st through 8th grade, and then he'd go back to 1st grade, coach all the way to 8th grade again, and so yeah. I have a question. When you were Miss Tennessee, how did you get into that? How did that pageant stuff become part of your life?
I'm still confused as to how that's kind of like a whirlwind to me. I think of it as the guy who goes to college basketball and just plays 1 year, one and done. Because all I did was I had never done a pageant before in my entire life. I was always my dad's son until my brother messed all that up. And I was raised as I was girly, but I was also always involved in sports, always playing backyard football, always the rough one, always the one wrestling. And so when I got to college and I started performing as a voice performance major, that was what I started in college as, a sorority sister of mine, and it's a smaller private school, so it wasn't a big sorority, but she was telling me about how she's paying for her school through doing the Miss America pageant. And I was like, wait, what? How much money did you get? And she told me about winning Tennessee, you could get a certain amount. And if you went to Miss America, if you won Miss America, you got this amount. And at the time, there was a little bit of financial insecurity going on with my mom's job and my dad. And they were the ones who were using their, not paying for my school, but using their credit to pay for my school, if that makes sense, with FAFSA. And
Mhm.
I was going to lose a scholarship my junior year. So I was like, how am I going to come up with this money to finish school out at a place that I love? And I was like, I'm doing a pageant. So I called my dad and I was like, listen, I'm going to do a pageant. I remember my parents were both like, okay, all right, we're doing a pageant. And we sat down and we kind of executed it. Like we looked at the X's and O's of it, you know, like what means, like, what do I need to do to get from this end to this end and attack it in the form of a game? And I'm telling you, it was so much fun. It was a whirlwind. I have no idea how it even happened to this day, but I was myself. I played the game. I'm sure there's a lot of people in Tennessee who kind of grew up in pageants and maybe we're kind of like the toddlers and tiaras who did not like that someone came in and swooped it away. But I mean, it was the best experience ever because I was a public speaker for an entire year for that pageant. Miss America was probably one of the most empowering experiences in my life because I learned a lot about myself and also just the fact that I learned confidence on the stage. So that's kind of how I got into it. I mean, I really got into it for the monetary value and it paid for the rest of my school, which was awesome. But it really did kind of catapult myself on front of a TV screen because before that, I had never really merged the fact that I had so much football knowledge with this newfound camera skill. And that kind of molded it all together.
Wow, that's really cool. That's really cool. I thought about becoming a sportscaster because I'm not, but it was something I was really interested in. I just changed my mind, but it was something I really wanted to be like as a little girl because I knew so much and I loved talking. Um, so yeah, what was that your dream as well? Like as a little girl, did you want to be a sportscaster, or did that like kind of develop with time?
It developed with time. It was never something. I remember I found a journal when we were actually moving, and I had always told my parents I wanted to be an actress. I always wanted to be on TV. I always wanted to be performing in some way, but I had no idea that it would be utilizing sports. So when it all comes together, and now where I am in this position, it's kind of interesting because it's like, oh, all right, I could have seen that. And my parents say that too. They're like, we always could have seen this path for you. But no, I didn't grow up being like, oh, I want to be Aaron Andrews. Oh, I want to be on the sideline. It kind of fell in my lap. And then once I did it once, I was like, oh, this is nice. Like, I'm addicted to this. Like, we're going to go for it. So it's kind of one of those paths.
That's really cool.
That is so awesome. And obviously, you have such a diverse background between growing up with football, going to school for music, going into pageants. Like, how did all those experiences and opportunities mesh together? Like, what was the clicking point when you were like, this is what I want to do?
I think it was my senior year when I came back to finish college. So once you win Miss Tennessee and compete at Miss America, the trade-off, so why they pay for the rest of your school is because you trade them a year of service. So for an entire year, I had to travel the state of Tennessee and you serve under the governor and you go into schools and you read to kids and you go to hospitals and talk to kids. And it's honestly one of the most it's very fulfilling. It might sound really trivial wearing a crown around as an adult, but to those kids, you're a real life princess, and
Mm-hmm.
that's all that matters. Your word is gold to them. So I learned a lot through that experience, and I came back to Belmont to finish my senior year, and then I was kind of like, all right, now what? Like, what do I do? Like, what do I do with my career? What do I do with my skill sets? And how do I merge them all? And he's actually in the college Hall of Fame right now. Rick Bird, who was the head coach for the men's basketball team for Belmont, and he was either an SID or basically the media guy, kind of approached me and they were like, we need a sideline reporter for a basketball team. We've never done this. We're a mid-major Division I school, but we want to kind of implement sideline reporting. Would you do this? And I was like, I've never held a mic before. I don't know what I'm doing. I mean, I know everything about the sport, but how do I translate that onto the court? I mean, we'll figure it out. So I go out and I do it. And like I said earlier, the first time I did it, it just was like an adrenaline rush. When you're doing the right thing is when you can't get enough of it, even if it pays you crap. You know what I mean? Like if you're like, I would tell anyone who's trying to get in this industry, if you can do anything else and be fully satisfied in life, go do it. Like, don't do this unless this is the be all end all for you, because it is a hard industry. You don't get paid a lot in the beginning. There's a ton of people who want to do it. You got to grind. And so for me, once I got that taste, I have never let go of it. And through a lot of hardship and a lot of different things, a lot of career changes and gaps in my employment, I've been able to kind of chase this same dream. But I think that's kind of what brought it all full circle, was just coming back from my senior year, looking myself in the mirror and being like, okay, you have a lot to offer. Now, how do you get that across to people? That's kind of what I did. But
that is like crazy. Like, what an opportunity though. So so you started doing the sideline reporting for the basketball team. Like, where did you go from there? What were the steps kind of
yeah.
to where you're at?
Okay, so it's not really pretty. So if anyone has had like not the prettiest time finding a job, here's how mine went. I graduated college. I did not find a job in sports reporting. I was a full-time nanny at the time for a former I don't think he's still playing, but basically I knew his wife really well because of the Miss Tennessee organization, and he played for the Grizzlies at the time, and so I was a full-time live-in nanny with them, and they offered that as a full-time job post-college. And I'm like, well, I have this dream. I really want to chase it, but no one offered me a job. And I applied for like over 100 jobs right out of school. And I thought my reel was like pretty decent. But anyways, you got to get someone to bite on you for the first time. I was so green. And so I go off and I do this job, and they were a wonderful family because they gave me enough time where I could do internships on top of this job. So I continued to intern at a local station in Nashville. I continued to call games for like high school state championships in basketball, try to get on the call for football, try to do some radio shows, appearances, keep that skill set going, and just pump the ever living crap of my reel out. I actually found my reel the other day, and it makes me so sick to my stomach to look at what I was. No wonder I didn't get hired. Like it. But I applied the second time around. Once I got done with that full-time nannying job, I started applying for jobs, and I think I put out about 80 or so job applications. I got 4 interviews and only 1 offer, and I took it. And they said, we're in Eugene, Oregon. I said, where the heck is that? I've never even been to Oregon. So I flew out to Eugene, Oregon, and took the job on the spot and moved there. And I mean, I was like, I'm going to do it. So it was a multimedia journalist, so an MMJ and a sports reporter. You got to cover the University of Oregon, be around Nike, do all this stuff. It was amazing. I traveled all the time. I was making dirt. And when I say dirt, I mean, like, I barely had enough to survive. And I was donating plasma, I remember, so I could pay my rent, like anything to do this. So I get this job. And then if I'm being very like open and honest, there was a personal issue in my life where I got involved with someone who I thought I was going to be with for the rest of my life. So I left my job to follow them to get a job where they were, and it fell apart. And that left me with a lovely little 8-month gap in employment. And I was trying that entire time to get back into the industry, fight tooth and nail. The second round of that, I sent out, I think, about 64 applications over the course of 8 months, and finally a job opened up. Because it's not necessarily that you're not good enough. It's just that it has to be the right timing, the right job opportunity, and an opening. And so finally the job opened up here in Kansas City, and I got it, hit the ground running ever since then. But I cannot tell you how many times throughout those gaps that I wanted to quit, because I was just like, maybe I'm just not good enough, like maybe I'm just not gonna make it ever. And I still feel that sometimes. Like, we all still feel that doubt. But I'm so glad that I pushed through it, because, I mean, I look back at that person in college, and if I didn't even take that leap of faith on myself, I wouldn't be here today covering, my 3rd Super Bowl. So it's just kind of crazy how it all happens, and you got to stick with it. And your resume might look pretty, but we have disguised the gaps and all the applications we sent out. But yeah, that's kind of how it all happened to get where I am here in Kansas City.
That's just so encouraging to hear, like, the story of the grind, right? Because I feel like everyone has that type of story, and they're all different, but they're also similar in that, like, I remember when we talked to Ellie Cooch a few weeks ago, she was like, my early YouTube videos, I really hope they've been deleted because I actually, they're the cringiest things ever. And we all have those things like when you get started in something that you're like, oh dear, I showed that to people. But you just keep doing it and you keep improving and refining and you just keep going and going and going. And then you look back and you're like, wow, I've just covered 3 Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy. Also, please tell her I'm a huge fan. I have
I think we're all huge fans.
But yeah, it's true. I think the thing that we need to stop doing on social media is masking the fact that it is not pretty. It's not. And I actually just talked with Tracy Wolfson about this because I saw her in March Madness and we were kind of talking through like what I'm doing, how she did it. And she was telling me how she didn't even get her first on-air position until she was in her late 20s. And then after that, she was told by multiple agencies, we're not going to represent you. We're not going to, like, you're not going to be on TV. This is like not your path. And she kept fighting for it. And after 1 year at ESPN, they didn't want to hire her back. And then she kept fighting for it. And I mean, look at her now. She's like the GOAT, you know? And
right.
It's crazy how no one really knows that. She started covering rodeos. Like, you tell me the first thing about a rodeo. I don't know the first thing about a rodeo. But that's what she started out doing because she's like, anything to get in front of the camera, I'll do it. And I think a lot of the times nowadays, social media really masks the fact that that is happening behind the scenes. Like, you got to take whatever you can take to get in front of the camera, to do whatever you can do, to make $28,000 a year, to eventually be able to live off of it, and to eventually be able to pursue your dream. That's why I always tell people, if you can do something else, do it.
Do that.
Like, go for it.
So obviously it's been a grind, and like it's taken a lot of self-determination to get you where you're at today. But aside from that, who has been your most influential mentor in getting you where you are today?
Oh, this is hard. Mentor. I mean, I'm a daddy's girl. I can't lie. Like, I'm blessed to have parents who are such big rocks in my life, who are people who I can go back to solidify the reasons and why I'm doing what I'm doing. But also to be like, honey, that's not your thing. Like, maybe we finish the season, but this might not be your strong suit. Like, you got to have someone who can say it like it is to you. And I think my parents have been able to do that. But in the industry, I would say someone who I've continued to be able to like reach out to and continue to be just a mentor wherever I've been in life. Laura Rutledge has been able to do that, and she's been a phenomenal person. I met her for the first time when I was in Oregon because we knew each other through a mutual friend because she was Miss Florida. I think about 5 years before I was Miss Tennessee. So we kind of knew each other through mutual people. And I remember she let me come down and meet her when she was covering a game in Oregon. And she took all the time in the world to talk to me, take pictures with me, let me follow her around. And then I ended up seeing her at the College World Series later. Again, took all the time to talk to me, introduced me to people. I'm not saying that everyone does that because a lot of people will do that, but not everyone does that, you know? And she's always been like, I sent her my reel whenever I was struggling, trying to figure things out. She was very open about like giving me her email and let me do that. And I think having a woman like that you aspire to be like, and that you look up to in the industry is really, really important. Like, always have your rock and your foundation and the people who have known you since day one, but finding someone who can be realistic with you in this industry is really good too, because I think a lot of people want to think that, oh, girls are so catty and it's girls against girls and blah, blah, blah. But really, all the boss ladies I've met in sports broadcasting, especially as you weed them out and get to the top, like, they got their ish together, you know? That's nothing off their back to help you survive, you know, to help you thrive and get to where you need to get because they're secure in who they are. So I think she's been a really big person that I've looked up to over the years.
That's awesome. Well, and obviously, you know, those people know what you've been through and how hard it is, and I'm sure are open to being supportive in that journey for others as well.
Yeah. And I think that's something that I'll remember no matter, I mean, I don't think I'm big league at all, but as I continue to grow or where I am right now, anytime someone reaches out to me, I always try to reply. If it's a student, if it's someone who wants to come shadow me for a day or whatever, because I think of how many people did that for me. And that's ultimately what gets you jobs, is just by knowing people. It's not necessarily the job you find on tvjobs.com. It's more of like who you actually know.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
building those connections.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously you touched on the fact that you've been covering the Chiefs as they've won a couple of Super Bowls.
Right.
What has that been like over the past few years?
Well, I mean, everyone's been in my business lately because everyone wants to know what's going on. And like, it was so funny because in 2019, the amount of trash talking I got from friends or colleagues being like, oh, you're going to go cover Patrick Mahomes. He's so overhyped. Never going to beat Brady. Never going to make a Super Bowl. All this stuff. Yada, yada, yada. That was after the Patriots beat them in the AFC title game over a really bad call. Well, that's me being opinionated, I guess. But anyway.
You can be opinionated. That's fine.
I wasn't technically reporting on the team back then, so I can say it was a bad call. But anyway, so we get, flash forward. I start week 4 of the 29th season. That's the year that they actually ended up winning the Super Bowl, the first one in 50 years. And it's like so cool to be able to come home because I'm from Kansas City and to be able to cover my hometown team, be a part of this because, the last time they won a Super Bowl, my parents were like 4 years old, which is just wild. And my mom was showing me her little Super Bowl onesie my grandma bought her. And it's just so crazy to see that flash forward that I get to be a part of that. And it's just been wild. I mean, the fact that we have daily or just during the week, you're speaking to Patrick Mahomes and Andy Reid multiple times during the week. You're in a locker room with such talented players, making those connections. Also, national people want to be there every dang week because the Chiefs are so good. So you have an opportunity to speak with these people on NFL Network on a regular basis and get to know them. And I think it's just been such a blessing in all those aspects because of the players that filter through Kansas City, the coaches we have here, and also the people who want to cover the Chiefs. It's been great. But I will say all my friends blow me up way too much about what's going on in free agency or the draft. And I try to give them what I can, but I'm also like, listen, you got to realize I can't tell you all this stuff.
Gotta hold the cards close.
Right. It's been fun though because it's also for people who are not from here or who are just from other aspects that I've met. They're really all of a sudden knowing that Kansas City's on the map, right? And the draft's going to be here too, which is really cool. Actually, that's really nerve-wracking. I'm really stressed about it, but it's going to be a lot of fun. So it's been a whirlwind. I am so blessed it's been Super Bowl win, Super Bowl appearance, AFC title game, Super Bowl win for the 4 seasons I've been here. So basically, wow. I deserve a ring, is what I'm saying.
Right?
I mean, if you're in the locker room with all the time, too, you definitely deserve a ring.
I mean, a good luck charm at least, right?
Right.
So speaking of the draft, it's obviously happening in your hometown in a few weeks. Any advice or must-dos for us or any listeners traveling out there for the draft?
Ooh, okay. Well, everyone's going to be freaked out about game barbecue. Like, you have to obviously get barbecue.
Obviously.
It's the best dang thing here ever. So if you go, you got to go to like Oklahoma Joe's, Q39. You got to go to Jack Stack. Gates Barbecue is so good. So any of those. But Kansas City also has a lot of beautiful artwork. And I think a lot of people don't really know that. There's the Nelson Atkins Art Museum, which is downtown, and it's free and it's beautiful. And there's a huge lawn outside. We also have a beautiful riverfront area here as well. And just there's so many little secret gems in Kansas City to do. I know it's a small town probably compared to what a lot of other cities look like, but Kansas City has a lot of awesome things to do in the Crossroads District and downtown, and it's also really, really safe now. I mean, over the past few years, they've done a really good job of trying to make sure that Kansas City is open and accessible and that we have public transit, because we didn't even have that before, and so now we have ways that people can access everything. But if you don't eat barbecue when you're here, you are doing it wrong. So you have to get some barbecue. And definitely check out some of the little pockets in the Crossroads District. It's really cool.
That's awesome. I had no idea there was like an art museum.
There is, and it's awesome, and it's so cool. It's down by the plaza. So if you guys are coming to the draft, you need to let me know. I would love to meet up with you guys.
Yeah, we would love that too. We are going to be there. So we'll have to get together.
Have to have a girls' day.
Yeah. So we have two younger sisters who are in middle school and elementary school. And so we love asking us, like, what advice would you give to your little sister, or like a little girl who wants to get into your field, other than don't do it unless you love it?
I think the biggest thing that I can think back on that age is that don't be talked out of being yourself. Don't let someone talk you out of being who you are. And it's trite. It's a cliche to say this, but no one else can be who you are. You're the only, I mean, you might as well own it, because no one else has that unique perspective to be what you are. And I remember a lot of the times I would try to like dull who I was, or try to hide in certain aspects, or try to kind of minimize myself to fit in certain spaces, because as we all remember, high school and middle school, it can be god awful. And I did not have a great time during those periods of my life, because I didn't fit a certain agenda or fit a certain image or look that you, I guess, are expected to be. And now it's even
Well, and your dad was scaring all the boys off, so
True. Let's blame it on him. But like when you look at social media, and I look at what I was doing at 13 and now what they look like at 13, I'm just like, I wouldn't survive. There's no way I would survive. So I think the biggest thing that I would tell someone is to never dull who you are, and to own that. And if you're quirky and weird and have a snore in your laugh, like do it. Like, be personable. Be who you are. It is so mundane to just be the same old cookie cutter that everyone's trying to fit in. Like, that's originality is what people are looking for. And I even remember that in my job. They told me, they're like, we love your voice. It's different. That's why we're really interested in you, because we like your voice. Like, we don't want a cookie cutter. We want someone who has something that's unique. And so being what you are, because I was trying to change my voice, which is really funny. When I first started, I was trying to change it because it's different. I was trying to make it more like
the voice.
Yeah. I was like, dude, what are you doing? Just speak how you speak. So that's my best long-winded advice, would really be figure out what you are and stick to it, because it will be in style sometimes, not in style sometimes, but consistency is key to just staying consistent with what you are and what you offer.
That's awesome. I love that. So now for some hopefully easy questions. I have a couple football rapid fire questions for you. So who is your favorite? Well, I think we know who your favorite NFL team is. So let's go college. Who's your favorite college team?
I have to be a Mizzou girl. I'm so sorry. That's gonna I'm officially revealing that I am Mizzou biased here in Kansas City. I grew up going to their games. I always loved Mizzou, even though they have not done great.
Yes. Well,
I feel like we all go through that.
Eva's a Michigan State girl right now, so she feels this.
Okay.
Yeah. Favorite game day snack?
At the Chiefs, we have really, really good popcorn. They always bring in Topsy's popcorn, which is like a Kansas City thing. And I will eat that ish up. Like, I will put bucket loads of it on my on my desk when I'm working games. So definitely popcorn. I love popcorn.
Okay, and also I guess we got to visit Topsy's while we're there.
Yes. On the
plaza. Okay.
We're big popcorn people.
Big popcorn people.
Cheese popcorn, cinnamon popcorn, and caramel popcorn all together in this mix.
Ooh.
And it's like 1,000 calories, and I'm just like handful after handful. I mean, it's
give it all to me. What's the best national anthem you've heard?
Oh my gosh, I cannot remember his name. He's in the Navy, and he just sang it for the Royals opening day, and he also sang it during the playoffs. A retired naval officer, but he is phenomenal. He lives in Kansas City. He's from here, and he always does it for the first game of the season and also for the Royals opening day. So anyone who can just he's a high tenor too, so he starts super, super high, and when he gets to the end of it, I'm just like, bro, he started too high.
He's going.
He's not gonna get it, and then he nails it, and I'm like, oh, okay,
wow,
that's awesome.
Amazing. What's your favorite halftime show you've seen?
Rihanna, Riri. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it has to be her, right?
nothing will ever beat that. Like, I want the background dancers' outfits. I want them.
Oh, yeah. But also, like, how will anyone ever have a pregnancy announcement that beats that? I think that a lot. Like, nothing will ever top announcing your pregnancy during the Super Bowl halftime show.
I mean, Beyonce is a close second to announcing it during the awards, but I mean, dang, Rihanna, like, more people watched Rihanna's halftime than they watched the Super Bowl.
It's crazy. Who has the craziest fans?
Craziest fans? Oh, the Raiders. The Raiders have the fans. They can stay in Vegas, my dears. They are a lovely batch of people. Yeah.
Yes. And finally, what 3 movies do you think everyone should watch?
If you haven't seen 50-50, you should watch that. It's about a guy in his 30s, early 30s, who gets, it's with Seth Rogen, so it's a little bit funny, who gets cancer and like kind of reevaluates life and gets through it. So I think that one's a really like realistic life one. La La Land, if you haven't watched it, because kind of that's just how life is, you know, the
Love
what ifs
that.
don't always work out. And I think it's a beautiful, I am also a musical person, so I love that. And I gotta go with Remember the Titans. If you can't go back to the OG football days, like, you gotta watch the Remember the Titans game. It's so good. It's such a good movie. Has so many good, you know, principles, characteristics, and aspects in that one. I love it.
It's such a good one.
That's-
So is La La Land. I just love the choreography in that one
I just want to cry at La La Land all the time.
every
I'm just like,
time.
oh, so good.
So looking ahead, I know you mentioned the Raiders. You are on your way to Vegas now, yes?
I just got back from Vegas.
Oh,
actually,
okay.
and I still feel the same way about the Raiders.
Perfect.
Same.
Well,
I had a great time in Vegas for a trip, but again, I'm like, once I got, and I was the dumb person who wore a Chiefs jacket on the plane to get there. Of course, right when I land, all this stuff, and I'm just like,
what have I gotten myself into?
like, just leave me alone. So,
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to hear your story, and we're excited to see what's next for you and what the future holds.
very excited, guys. There's a lot. I'm freelancing for a couple national networks this summer, and then hopefully going to announce in late July where I'll be full time. But yeah, it's so exciting. I get to make the jump from, you know, local TV to network TV, and it's been a long time coming, and it's really exciting.
Well, congratulations. You definitely have worked hard and earned it.
Oh, thanks, guys. I appreciate it, and I hope to see you guys in Kansas City. Let me know when you're here.
Yeah, we'll see you there.